Hi, everyone. We're going to get started soon, in like a minute, so we can stay on schedule. And if you have a seat with your guests or guest name on it. If you would please take a seat there, and we'll start.
Good evening, folks. Welcome. All right, that means you can hear me, right? All right. I'm going to try to do this with one pair of glasses, but I may have to reach for the backup, so we'll see. But thank you. Welcome, and thank you for coming. I'm really excited to induct our 5th Hall of Fame class. We received a tremendous number of nominations this year, including 2 record setters who each got 7 individual nominations. I'd like to thank the members of the selection committee first, who had the tough task of selecting this year's class, and notice that my name is not on there, so lobbying me doesn't work. So thank you to students, Samantha Cohen and Sarah Rooney. If you're here, please stand up. Faculty and staff members, Kevin Blackistone and Caitlin Wilson. I know I saw Kevin somewhere. Board of Visitors members, Chris Freitz and Eitan Horowitz. Member of our Journalism Alumni Network, Eugene Oba. And I'd also like to recognize any Board of Visitors members who are here and former Board of Visitors members who are here. I know I've seen a couple. Thank you. We appreciate everything you do for us, so thank you. You're going to hear a lot more about each of our honorees shortly, but we are proud to induct the following alumni into the Hall of Fame. If you can hold your applause to the end, it won't take very long, I promise. Tim Brant, who became the voice of Merrill and Terrapins, calling both football and basketball games on WMAL early in his career, and then went on to work as one of the first national sideline reporters in television history for ABC Sports. Tim remains one of the most respected analysts and play-by-play voices in college sports. Joanna Sullivan is a senior editor on the news and content team at American City Business Journals, where she helps guide editorial strategy across 13 business journals. She previously spent more than 25 years as editor-in-chief of the Baltimore Business Journal. Monica Norton, a former deputy managing editor of the Washington Post, who led major national coverage, including reporting on the protests following the killing of George Floyd and the January 6 United States Capitol attack, work which later received the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service. Joe Palazzolo, who's on the investigations team at the Wall Street Journal. His reporting on abuses of political power in business and government has earned multiple Pulitzer Prizes, including the 2019 Award for National Reporting and the 2023 Prize for Investigative Reporting. Lee Walczak was the Washington bureau chief for Business Week and later political news editor at Bloomberg News. Walczak built a distinguished career covering the White House and national politics. He sadly passed away in 2008, and we are grateful to wife Maria Recio Walczak for being here today to accept the honor on his behalf. And finally, the guy I probably don't need to introduce, our faculty honoree this year, George Solomon. Sports editor for the Washington Post for nearly 3 decades, and the founding director of our very own Shirley Povich Center for Sports Journalism, which celebrates 15 years this fall. George mentored and inspired a whole lot of, it says future sports journalists, but I'm going to change it to journalists in general because George mentored and inspired a lot of journalists. So, I will introduce some folks. Well, actually, we should applaud for them now. For those of you who were last year, you'll remember I will introduce some folks. We want to continue the tradition of each honoree having someone to come up here and introduce them. So without delay, I'd like to welcome Janet Brant, the wife of Tim Brant, who will introduce Tim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Brant, Tim Brant's wife. Like so many people, I arrived on campus in College Park in the fall of 1969, thinking about the future I would be building, my goals, my career, my independence. I had no idea that just a few steps away from my dorm, called La Plata Hall, was a guy who lived in Ellicott Hall, who would become my future husband. Living so close to each other meant we became part of each other's everyday lives and routines. We had so much fun. The University of Maryland gave us more than an education. It gave us the setting where our story began. We grew up together, supported each other through challenges, and built a solid foundation. Tim played on the Terps football team. When the college newspaper, the Diamondback, interviewed him, he shared how he was about to get married to a fellow Terp and that her name was Janet Winstead. He said to the writer, "With a fiance whose name begins with Win, how could I lose?" So, on the 7th month of July, the 7th day, 1973, at 7 p.m., Tim and I got married in the University of Maryland chapel. This place will always be more than a campus to us. It's where I met my partner, my best friend, and the person I get to spend the rest of my life with. Now, 55 years later, 53 married, 4 wonderful kids, 4 great spouses, and 11 grandchildren, we are the 2 luckiest people in the world. And finally, how many people get to have a front row seat to experience the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat? Congratulations, Tim, on 40-plus years in broadcast journalism and on the Philip Merrill College of Journalism Hall of Fame.
You don't know how painful that was for her. No, that was special. She said when she gets up to speak anywhere, she has flashbulbs going off in her eyes. But she did a great job. Good job, Boo. What a pleasure it is to be here tonight. I mean, this is spectacular. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm extremely grateful to the Philip Merrill College of Journalism. I mean, this is really special where it all started. First, let me congratulate all the inductees to this year's Hall of Fame class. It is impressive. The College of Journalism was only print journalism back in the late 60s, early 70s, and that's when I was part of it. But that would make sense, too, because Philip Merrill was a big newspaper guy. We didn't have broadcast journalism here. But as it turned out, what I learned in print journalism, it serviced me well for the fundamentals, served me well, became really my foundation for everything that followed in my career. And people always ask about what is my favorite moment or my favorite memory in broadcasting. Well, that's a pretty good list. I mean, that's long. The Olympics, March Madness, World Series, Tour de France, just pick one. But if it has to be just one, I will take you back to 2001. Seriously, do you remember the attack on the Twin Towers, 9/11? Well, the football games, college football games that week were canceled, and they were threatening to cancel the entire season. So we didn't know if we were going to have a season or not, but we did, and there was. I want to fast forward now to the final game of that season, the 9/11 season, and every week during that season there was drama. FBI was coming in and saying, we've got terrorist alert, everybody wants to hit all these people in this stadium, whatever it was. Now here we are getting ready to do the National College Football Championship in the Rose Bowl, America Stadium. And we're getting ready to do this game, and again, here comes the threat. That was an emotional season from the get-go. So everything started going, Miami, Nebraska, more than 100,000 people in the Rose Bowl that night. The sun was falling behind the San Gabriel Mountains, which surround Pasadena Rose Bowl, purple, orange, falling down behind the mountains, the hues of those colors, and there it was, darkness. And all of a sudden, they bring the national anthem singer. I don't know who the artist was that night that sang the national anthem, but it didn't really matter, because the 100,000 people in those stands at the Rose Bowl that night were screaming the national anthem at the top of their lungs, a lot of them with tears coming down their cheeks. So the national anthem was over, and here comes this big B-2 bomber, stealth bomber, was a flyover. And from the press box, you felt like you could almost touch it. That's how low it was in the stadium. The emotion was palpable. I'm sure 30 million viewers at home could feel it. And our producer of that game, it was Keith Jackson and myself up in the broadcast booth getting ready to do the game. The producer was a kid by the name of Mark Loomis, very talented producer. And he says, "Throw it to break after the national anthem, Keith." Keith, Keith. Nobody was answering his IFB. It was like, so I'm tapping Keith. You know, he's talking to you. I looked over at Keith Jackson. Keith had tears coming down his eyes. I mean, this guy, former Marine, John Wayne type figure. Anybody that knows Keith Jackson, I mean, he's a big man, former Marine, Hall of Fame broadcaster. And here he is in tears. And when he throws it to break, you could barely hear him. And he just said, "The kickoff is next." And he was cracking up. I mean, his voice was cracking. It was unbelievable. And it taught me about the power in sports, the power in news. No matter what it does, it teaches you that these type of things bring people together. At that moment, when I looked up and I saw Keith, it was no longer about a football game. It was about the country. It was about resilience. It was about what had taken place 9/11. And the people in the stands knew it. The broadcasters knew it. Everybody watching that game knew it. And that's about where you learn a lesson of how powerful storytelling can be when you have a situation like that. The lessons I learned here at Maryland about integrity, responsibility, the power of journalism, stayed with me through every broadcast. And it wasn't a broadcast I didn't like. I mean, Rune Arledge, who ran ABC Sports, was one of those guys. He started Wide World of Sports for people in this country to see what other countries were doing in sports. And everything from arm wrestling in Petaluma to the speed skating up above the Arctic Circle in Tromsø, Norway. I mean, it was a great learning experience for me, but it was great television. But it was a big winner for ABC Sports. The lessons I learned here, I tell you, were integrity, responsibility, and power of journalism. And that's why this honor means so much to me, because it all started right here in College Park for me. I signed a scholarship. I came here to play football, and next thing I know, I ended up in the College of Journalism. I wanted to be a broadcast journalism. Even my brothers, when I'm growing up, called me telephone, telegraph, and tele-Tim. I mean, I was always, probably because I was a tattletale. I mean, they all like that. But when I got here, it was different. It was different. And then I met Janet. And my life changed. Then I wasn't just here to play football. I was here to be a human being, be a student. Try to make football better here, because I tell you, it wasn't good back then. I used to tell people, where's George? I used to tell people, we only dress 25 players. The other 25 can dress themselves. But I met Janet, got engaged to Janet. We graduated together. We got married in that chapel, as she said, where my broadcast career started, doing the Maryland football and basketball games with Mal Campbell. Then they let Mal go, and Johnny Holliday came in, and he's still doing it. I left, and I went to ABC Sports. First ABC Washington, WJLA, and then ABC Sports. But I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank everybody for putting a ribbon on my career here. And when I think back on it, I'm going to think about that big bow on top. I want to thank everybody for this recognition. It means a lot to me. And I want to tell you, too, that where's Victoria? I know Victoria's got her stopwatch. So I'm just going to end it the way Mal Campbell used to end his telecast and just say, my time is up. I thank you for yours, and thank you and congratulations to the inductees.
Take it off. People know who you are. Oh, of course. I'm supposed to give him an award. That voice, right? It's like I've heard it before. Thank you, Tim. And now I'd like to call up Elena Paoli, an '86 Merrill College grad and a retired attorney for the Federal Election Commission, to the podium to introduce Joanna Sullivan.
Good evening. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me to introduce Joanna Sullivan. I couldn't be happier that her impressive accomplishments are being recognized. Joanna and I met in the fall of 1983 in the office of the Diamondback, where we went to start working as news reporters. We quickly bonded over our love of journalism, our Italian heritages, our desire to do well academically, Terps basketball, and just general college life. More than 40 years later, we are still the very best of friends. Joanna's exemplary journalism career reflects her dedication to pursuing, taking, and excelling at opportunities. During college, she had internships at the Institute of Political Journalism at Georgetown University, the Baltimore Sun, the Evening Sun, and Knight Ridder. All the while, she continued to work at the Diamondback and get good grades and have fun. After graduation, Joanna went to Hagerstown to report and edit at the Herald Mail, and from there, the Annapolis Capital. Her focus on business news began at the Washington Bureau of the American Banker newspaper, but the bulk of her career has been with the American City Business Journals Company. She rose from reporter at the BBJ to its editor, a position she held for 25 years, overseeing the change from a weekly print publication to 24/7 online coverage. And she does not stop taking new opportunities. Recently, when some of her contemporaries began thinking of retirement or retired, as I did, she took on a national editing strategy position at the business journals, becoming a top executive at the company and working closely with 12 of its market newspapers all over the country. And she wrote a book. Joanna and a high school friend investigated and wrote about the 1975 unsolved murder of a little girl in their Broomall, Pennsylvania neighborhood. Their 2022 book led to the arrest of the almost certain perpetrator, but a poorly conducted trial and the suspect's age resulted in a no conviction, unfortunately. Joanna exemplifies journalistic passion and integrity. She is also one of the best people you could ever meet. A generous, loyal, and compassionate friend to so many, a tireless and caring mother, sister, wife, and daughter, and a wise, empathetic leader and mentor to so many young journalists. I am thrilled and honored to introduce Joanna Sullivan.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's kind of hard to follow a broadcaster. But thank you, Elena. I'm grateful to the University of Maryland's journalism program for bringing us together all those years ago. Thank you as well to my family and friends who have traveled from Georgia, Pennsylvania, Maryland to be here tonight. I wish my dad was able to attend. He and my late mom made that first trip to the campus with me in the fall of 1982. I fell in love with it right away and said, I want to go here. It's still beautiful. It's really nice to be here on a beautiful spring night. To my husband, Michael, and son, Max, you have been my biggest supporters and often my unpaid photographers. You have earned your bylines. Thank you, Dean Lorente and members of the committee for the incredible honor. It means so much to me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame alongside such an inspiring group of journalists, including the late John McNamara. I was fortunate to work with John in 2 newsrooms, and I continue to carry his example with me. My time at Maryland laid the foundation for a career I love. I learned from extraordinary professors, including Carl Stepp and Hall of Famer Maureen Beasley. This school opened doors to meaningful internships and, more importantly, instilled in me a deep understanding of how essential a free press is to a healthy community. I continue to love this work and cannot imagine doing anything else. Today, my goal is to ensure that the next generation of journalists feels the same sense of purpose, responsibility, and possibility. Thank you again for this honor, and congratulations to my fellow inductees.
Congratulations again, Joanna. And now I'd like to call Michelle Singletary to the podium. Michelle, who writes the nationally syndicated personal finance column, The Color of Money, serves as a member of our Board of Visitors and is a fellow Hall of Famer. She will introduce Monica Norton.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am so honored to be here. This is my own stomping ground. I met my husband here, and I came here. I was the first of Baltimore Sun scholars to come to the University of Maryland. Monica followed behind me, so they sort of called me the mother of the group. You all better not call me the mother of the group. And I'm trying not to cry because we have some of our fellow colleagues outside from the Baltimore Evening Sun. And was so thrilled to see them come here and support Monica. And then Don Graham is here, who is, so great. Listen, I have some prepared remarks, but just before that, I want to just sort of say something, sort of the elephant in the room. There's a lot of controversy about DEI. And Monica and I came to Maryland as part of a program to increase minority journalism. And Baltimore Sun started the scholarship program, and they paired up with the University of Maryland. And that's a really important thing to say also that we still need diversity in our newsrooms. And but when we got to the Sun, there were some people who thought that we were less than. And the fact that we did so well, and Monica did so well here at this school and in the business, says that we have a place in our newsrooms. And I like to tell people it's like on a football team. Now, I might get this wrong, so the sports people might have to correct me. However, you can't have all quarterbacks on a team and have a winning team, right? You got to have linebackers and kickers and all the other people out there. And that's what diversity, that's what DEI is. You have a winning team when you have everybody playing their part. And so I am so honored to be here to talk about one of those people who walked into the newsroom with her shoulders back at a young age of 17. She just took that newsroom by storm. And when Monica graduated from Merrill College in 1987, she entered a journalism scene where women of color in leadership were rare. As a fellow Baltimore Sun minority scholar, I saw her navigate often unwelcoming newsrooms. Yet Monica always chose to be a protector. While many focus solely on their climb up, Monica spent her career building and holding the ladder for those coming behind her. She advanced from a young reporter to deputy managing editor of the Washington Post. Don't ask me how it is right now. Overseeing Pulitzer Prize-winning coverage and mentoring dozens of journalists along the way. But truly to understand Monica's impact, you need to understand her voice. In a tribute to James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk, she captured the weight of the representation in a 2018 essay for The Post. She wrote, "I have never read anything like Baldwin. When you are one of 3 or 4 black students in a classroom with 25 or so white students for so much of your education, it can be exhausting to explain, to represent, to live. I like to believe it was more than a fluke that Miss Elliott, her teacher, recommended Bowen. I like to believe, she said, she understood my need for a voice like mine. At the Post, Monica became the voice for so many so that they didn't have to be quite so exhausted. She is a foundational force, a leader who challenged fellow journalists to perform their best while championing their individual journeys. In 2025, Monica marked 20 years at the Washington Post. It is only fitting that she joins the Hall of Fame today, honoring a commitment to the future that our late great colleague Gwen Eiffel described so perfectly, who we worked with her in Baltimore Evening Sun, by the way. And Gwen said, we can't expect the world to get better by itself. We have to create something we can leave the next generation. We have to write the stories that haven't been told. We have to be the ones who say, this is important. Monica, you've spent your career sharing those stories and being that voice. You've built a legacy of excellence, and I am honored to call you not only a colleague, but a friend. Congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame, my friend.
So congratulations, first of all, to my fellow inductees. I am truly honored to be included among such a distinguished group. I can assure you that if you had told that 18-year-old girl who entered this campus in the fall of, we don't need to go into specifics, but that if you told her she would be inducted into the Hall of Fame, she would laugh you out of the room. Thank you to Michelle and so many others who nominated me and just spoke this into existence. I learned I was joining the Hall of Fame just a few days after more than 300 or so of my coworkers and friends were losing their jobs. It was hard to feel celebratory, and I have to say to the dean, I truly appreciated when he sent me the notice, the first thing he said was, how are you holding up? So thank you for that. But as I told people, I was raised Baptist, and there's one thing that I have learned, and that is to show gratitude in all aspects of my life, and I have so much to be grateful for. I'll begin with my parents, who they were not afforded the educational opportunities that so many people take for granted. But our household used to get 3 newspapers, the Evening Sun, the News American, and the Afro-American, and my parents read them from cover to cover. And maybe that's where I got my love of newspapers, or I just couldn't get away from it. And we won't even get into the fact that my father bought a set of encyclopedias that he tricked me into reading, most of them. And for the young people in the room, encyclopedias are these things. It's like what Wikipedia is, but in book form. My siblings are here tonight. I am grateful. They left the house when I was 10, but what they did was they left behind all of their books from college. I will say most of them I probably should not have read at 10. But my bestie is here. She helped me read through all of the inappropriate passages, and we survived. She turned out to be a great educator. But I am truly grateful for the University of Maryland, and I have a confession to make. I did not want to attend the University of Maryland. I wanted to get out of the state of Maryland, or at very least, I wanted to attend a certain little HBCU down the road, but fate intervened, and again, I'm grateful, unbelievably grateful that it did. It was here that I found a group of women in Dorchester Hall who would nurture me. It was here that I was taught, occasionally tortured. It was a different time, teachers could do that, but I was challenged and encouraged. It was here I was surrounded by academic excellence, even if my grades weren't always so excellent. And it was here that the foundation was laid to prepare me not only to work in major newsrooms, but to thrive. There has been much hand-wringing over the state of journalism today, and for the young people, I will not deny that you face some serious challenges. But make no mistake, this has always been a business that has been challenged. How can the fight to protect freedom of speech, freedom of the press, those rights enshrined in the Constitution, be anything but challenging? But it is necessary and it is needed now more than ever. So my hope is that all the young people, anyone out there listening, take advantage of the strength of this institution and its people. This university, and particularly the journalism department, gave me a council, advisors, therapists, a tribe. Some of them are in this room tonight. I am humbled and I am honored to be in the Hall of Fame, but I am most grateful for the gift of its people. Thank you.
Congratulations, Monica. And second choice, third choice, we're still glad you're a Terp. So I'd like to call up Michael Rothfeld, an investigative reporter for the New York Times, to introduce his former colleague and my former student. So yes, I have students who now have gray hair like me, Joe Palazzolo.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. If he had not won 3 Pulitzer Prizes, you might not, so far, you might not realize what an extraordinary journalist Joe Palazzolo is. And that's because he never, ever calls attention to himself. He just does great work year after year. But anyone who has worked with him knows that Joe is the rarest of breeds. He's an incredibly sharp thinker. He's passionate. He has a strong sense of justice. He works very, very hard. He loves to chase a good story, and he's trustworthy. I've seen Joe develop sources that no reporter should have been able to. Now, despite all of these virtues, he's one of the humblest people that you could meet. His teammate, Rebecca Ballhaus, who's here, says he is totally egoless, very generous, and kind. Joe grew up in St. Louis, and he cut his journalism teeth right here at the University of Maryland, and then at Legal Times and Main Justice in Washington. I met him in late 2010 when he moved to New York to become the blogger for the Wall Street Journal's law group. But we became much closer in 2016 when I was asked to help Joe run down a tip about payments that were being made to women to silence them about dalliances with the then Republican candidate for president. Joe, before I even knew what was going on, had fully populated a spreadsheet with potential sources, porn stars, Playboy models, and paparazzi. And then he had his Watergate moment under the giant brass clock at Grand Central Terminal, where his own personal deep throat passed him documents that helped us prove that the National Enquirer had paid $150,000 to do a catch and kill for Donald Trump. That led us to Stormy Daniels, to Joe's first Pulitzer, and to a book deal. Interviews were requested on television, and Joe said, "No thanks, you can do that." And I said, "Okay." And he just focused on churning out the next scoop. So I left Joe for a competing publication, and that was painful, even before he won 2 more Pulitzer Prizes with other people. One about the financial conflicts of federal judges, and another about the rise and somewhat covert activities of Elon Musk. I've learned a ton from Joe about journalism and about life. He didn't have a glide path to success. Like many of us, he's faced challenges, but he's one of the strongest, most resilient people that I know. And that's why I am so proud to introduce him for this great honor he so richly deserves.
Thank you for that. That was amazing, Michael. And right back at you, too. I've learned so much from you. You've shown me what great journalism looks like. I could scarcely ask for a better friend, for a better reporting partner. You're almost perfect, but you went to Columbia. So I've got, obviously, a lot of other people to thank. People who've already been thanked tonight. But obviously the college, the committee. Thanks, Raphael. You know, I know that you didn't pick me, but come on. He was a really good professor. I got to tell you, it's it's part of the reason why it was such an amazing experience. I want to thank my friends for being here. Like, I hate to name check them, but I want to embarrass them, so I will. That's Mike Scarcella. He's a reporter for Reuters. Rebecca Ballhaus, she's my colleague on the investigations team. It's Jen Forsyth. She's the DC investigations editor at the New York Times. It's John Forsyth. He's a former editor at many special publications, including the New York Times. So thank you so much for being here. I also want to, thank my wife Tara and my daughter Rosie. So Rosie's 17 months, and she doesn't like, silence or sitting still or plane rides, so she's not here. Let me tell you about my sort of inauspicious start. So I was nursing myself back to health after a failed semester at a four-year college in St. Louis. And I was working at a dry cleaner's, taking classes at a community college. And I saw an ad one day for circulation manager. The newspaper was hiring, the college student newspaper was hiring a circulation manager. And I don't know why I decided to apply for it, but I needed a little bit of extra money, so I did. And I wasn't managing anything. I was just rolling a cart around campus, putting newspapers into racks. But obviously I started reading the newspaper. And something stirred inside of me, and I was like, I don't want to be delivering the newspaper. I want to be creating the newspaper. I want to be reporting the news. So pretty soon I started reporting for the student newspaper, and before I knew it, I was irrevocably hooked. Like, it was a passion that I've never felt before, to be honest. And passion is great, but passion without talent, without structure, without ethics, is just so much wasted energy. And when I came to Maryland, that's what turned this passion into something real, something formidable. And the classes here were taught by some of the best folks in the field. I mean, I had Deb Nelson teaching me investigations. I had David Broder, just teaching me about political journalism. I had Raphael teaching me about news writing, which I desperately needed at that time. So all that's to say that, Maryland is such a special place for me. It gave me the opportunities. I wouldn't be where I am right now without it. I interned at The Sun. I would not have had that internship had I not gone here. I worked for newspapers the entire time I was a student here. As I was required to, we have to have clips, all right? So I wasn't like a standout or exceptional. I just did what was required of me. And, the Maryland delivered on what was promised, which is the best practical education in journalism, period. So again, I'm really grateful for my time here. I'm so grateful to share this space with the other inductees whose accomplishments are astounding, and I feel lucky to count myself among them. I question whether I should be among them, frankly. And I want to end sort of briefly on, just a note about what's happening right now. We've covered, all of the headwinds that are facing our industry right now. But, we're also facing an extraordinary number of legal threats that are meant to get us to back down or scare us off. Defamation litigation is up. It's a different environment out there, and I really want to thank all of the editors and publishers and executives who are holding the line right now, and also to give the younger folks hope that journalism is still powerful, it's still meaningful, and there are so many outlets, and even though we've lost so many, there are so many more that are coming to fill or trying to fill that space. And I am so proud to be among the people that are trying to deliver on this promise of informing the public, and I'm so grateful to be here for the 11th time that I've said that. So thank you all.
Congrats, Joe. And yeah, we knew he'd be good. I don't know if we knew he'd be this good, but it was pretty clear. Now I'd like to invite Al Hunt, former columnist for Bloomberg View and friend of Lee Walczak. He has the honor of presenting Maria Recio Walczak, who is accepting this award on Lee's behalf.
It is such an honor to be here, and particularly to talk about my late colleague, Lee Walczak, one of the great journalists. And I'm so awestruck by this group of honorees today. Michelle, you were an introducer, but thank you for reminding us about the importance of diversity. And Joe, about the importance of taking on these legal threats against our business. And it's especially nice to see my old friend George Solomon, who ran the best sports section in America. Nothing like it. And George was able to tell me today how I can find out about the Washington Nationals, because I can't find out from my local paper. So thank you, George. When I became the bureau chief for the Wall Street Journal, I was a political hack, so I didn't pay as much attention as I probably should have to the business journals, Business Week and Forbes and Fortune. And then several years later, in that casual reading of them, I noticed that Business Week was doing stories on the White House, the Fed, politics, that I wish we had had. And I asked someone, why are they getting so good? And they said Lee Walczak has taken over the bureau, and that stuck with me. And fast forward about 20 years, and I had a midlife crisis, and I went to Bloomberg News to run their Washington office. And I heard shortly thereafter that Lee had stepped aside as bureau chief of Business Week, and I jumped at the opportunity, talked to Lee about coming to Bloomberg. We were a work in progress, to put it kindly. We had a lot of resources. We had an honest owner. We had a great business model, and we were new. And we needed editors, great editors. And I asked Lee, is there going to be any problem going from running a bureau to becoming an editor, albeit a top editor. And he said, all I want to do is do great journalism. And that really personified Lee. And he came and he did great journalism. We had a few veteran reporters who he made even better. And we had a larger number of younger, talented reporters who he taught so much about reporting and about sourcing and about writing and about framing stories. He just made a huge difference, and it was just a great experience. And I remember looking forward so much to 2008, a presidential election year, where I thought we're really ready to roll, because among other things, at the top of that list was Lee Walczak's contributions. And then sadly, we lost Lee that year. And besides, the most important thing was the loss of journalism we could have done that year. But I must say also was upset because I had heard legendary stories about Lee at conventions and appreciating the importance of lavish expense accounts in conventions. And so we tried to follow that in St. Paul and in Denver, and in every one of those expensive meals we offered a toast to Lee Walczak. We certainly lost him much too early, but he made a contribution, and it was great for us, and I know what he did for Business Week. I think that he told us, he told people, Maria can talk about it in a minute, about how important the school had been to him, and it really paved the way. He was a Russian immigrant, and that this had paved the way for that fabulous career he had in journalism. So I want to say this is a real honor for me, and it's a double honor to introduce another great journalist, his wife, Maria, who will accept the honor and the tribute to Lee.
Hi, everybody. I actually did get a memorial pin here with Lee's picture. I didn't even know these existed, but apparently it's a very British thing. They do it for weddings and everything when you have, a deceased, especially a parent, in this case, a spouse. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that he's always with me, but today he's really always with me on my lapel. But thank you. Thank you very much for this honor for my late husband, Lee Walczak. I accept it in his memory with deep, heartfelt thanks to everyone who made it happen and everyone who was able to attend today to celebrate him and all the Hall of Fame honorees. Very impressive group. Congratulations to everyone. I want to recognize some family members who are here today, starting with my daughter, Alana Walczak, who's there on the end, who just loves being pointed out. My brother, Carlos Recio, and one of my nephews is out in the lobby, but his name is Nicholas Recio, and I want to recognize him because he's a student here, but he found time in his schedule to come and attend, so special shout out to him. Not able to be here today is another daughter that we have, Alexa Walczak. She's finishing grad school in California, and both Alexa and Alana actually went here to Maryland, but naturally, with both parents being journalists, they wanted nothing to do with journalism. So you knew that was going to happen. Much gratitude to Lee's colleagues, friends, and coworkers who remembered him and his contributions to journalism and provided testimonials for this Hall of Fame honor. As I said, I am a journalist as well. In fact, I met Lee when we were working for McGraw-Hill, which was owned Business Week. I have had a long newspaper career, much of it affiliated with Texas publications. And I want to say a shout out here because two of my former colleagues are actually in the audience who I just met and I hadn't seen it. Did they leave, the Forsyths? Oh, no, there you are. Hi. Anyway, we were, as we all said, proud alums of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, so yay. But one thing you learn when you're with Texas is that you learn Texas customs, and the big Texas custom is the tip of the cowboy hat, right? And that is no greater honor. And so I wanted to tip my cowboy hat to the people who have worked hard to keep Lee's memory alive. starting with the amazing Al Hunt, who you just heard from. Lee worked for Al at Bloomberg. Another great Lee advocate was Steve Shepard, the former editor-in-chief of Business Week magazine. And he has a strong Maryland affiliation because his father-in-law was Shirley Povich, who you know here as the famous sports writer for whom the Sports Journalism Center is named. And then the most special tip of the cowboy hat has to go to a Maryland journalism legend, Connie Chung. Connie and Lee were actually friends and classmates in high school and college. And then, as they moved up in their careers, they covered the White House at the same time. We thank Connie, who I think of as the godmother of the Philip Merrill College of Journalism, for her heartfelt support of Lee. So now let me tell you a little bit about Lee and his unusual background. Lee, as Al just told you, was actually born in Moscow after World War II. His Jewish parents were originally from Poland, but had fled to Russia at the beginning of the war. However, during the war, they ended up being trapped in Minsk, in the Jewish ghetto. They were able to escape and then joined the partisans in the forests, fighting the Germans in eastern Russia. After the war, when the partisans took over government control of Poland, Lee's father, Henry Zucker, who had apparently been a fierce and cunning fighter, was rewarded with a job as a diplomatic courier. He also got a new last name. Yes, we're not really Walczak. Lee's parents, Henry and Anna, went from being Zucker, or Zucker as they say then, to Walczak, or as they would say in Poland, Walczak. Apparently, it's a very classic Polish name that means fighter, which is, relates very much to the way Lee lived his life. Apparently, Zucker, however, which means sugar or sweet in German, was too Jewish sounding for those in power. After being posted to the Polish embassy in Moscow, Lee's parents were assigned to Washington. But then, when the rotation was up and they were due to return to Warsaw, Lee's mother put her foot down and the family defected to the US. Lee grew up, he liked to say, with a normal American childhood, except, of course, for being stateless, until he could get his US citizenship years later. He was a typical American teenager, driving his first sports car, when he went roaring up to the immigration court to take the citizenship test before a judge. First question, what US federal holiday is in October? Lee paused, thought about it, ventured, Halloween? The judge laughed and passed him. Lee was very funny and engaging and a real leader in the journalism community. He covered 7 presidents. He was White House correspondent and later Washington bureau chief at Business Week for 20 years, and then was White House editor at Bloomberg. He was devoted to the truth and to telling the truth and to helping young people grow as journalists. Senator Chris Van Hollen, a friend and neighbor who also wrote a testimonial supporting Lee being in the Hall of Fame, recently wrote me, and it actually brought tears to my eyes, but I'm going to read you a little bit of it here. This recognition is a powerful tribute to Lee's remarkable career, his values of principled, honest journalism, and his tremendous impact on his profession and the community, said Chris. We all miss Lee, but his legacy is all around us. Thank you.
Oh, no, this is mine. That's yours.
Oh, no, you can have that too.
Thank you, Maria. Now I'd like to call Mark Hyman. Mark is the George Solomon Endowed Chair in Sports Journalism and Director of the Shirley Povich Center for Sports Journalism. He will introduce Professor George Solomon.
Introduce George Solomon in 2 minutes. I will try. The Povich Center turns 15 this year, and it would never have happened without the generosity of the Povich family and the vision of George Solomon. George invented everything. The courses, the panels, the annual Povich Symposium, which is still going strong. Remember the year that Maury moderated, and the panelists were Kornheiser, Will Bond, Christine Brennan, and Bob Costas. That was the Povich Center that George Solomon built, and the joy and the energy and the creativity and the love that he brought to the center. I would argue that there's never been a more beloved person to walk through the doors of Knight Hall than George Solomon. And if you head up to the Povich Center on the 3rd floor, you will see the Shirley Povich wall, lots of photos of Shirley, and the George Solomon corner with our tribute to George Solomon. I heard from a half dozen Merrill and Povich Center alums recently about their lives with an appreciation for George. I want to tell you about one. Andy Koska, class of 2020, recalled approaching George one spring and asking for his help in landing an internship. George replied, "Do you know anything about golf?" "No," said Andy. "Well," said George, "you're going to learn." And then he recommended that Andy head to a driving range where Andy was instructed to hit some golf balls. That summer, Andy interned at Golf Week magazine. Thank you, George. And today, Andy covers the Orioles for the Baltimore Banner. In the interest of time, a few dozen other stories like the one from that one from Merrill alums and colleagues, and also in the Post Sports Department, will remain in my reporter's notebook forever, including tributes that I received from Tom Boswell, Richard Justice, Dave Kindred, and Chris Brennan. They're all toasting you tonight, George. As is Scott Van Pelt, a former student of Professor Solomon's, who wrote that George, quote, championed my cause for that one class I needed to get my diploma. Without his advocacy, I don't know that it would ever have happened, and I'm so grateful for that kindness. I'll close with what might be the ultimate testimonial, and it comes from Maury Povich. Maury wrote to me, "More than anything, George is solely responsible for keeping Shirley Povich writing for nearly 20 years after his official retirement at the Post. Dad always said George made him retire retirement. So much so that Shirley wrote his last column the day before he died. He was questioning in the piece how Mark McGuire was having all of those 3 home run games. A generation of Shirley's fans can thank George for that. George, add me to that list. Thank you and congratulations."
Thank you, Mark. You've been a great successor running the Povich Center. I don't want to say I'm getting old, but one of the people here tonight actually owns a cemetery. And I guess they feel they can make a sale. I'm not kidding. But that said, that gives me great pause to introduce a number of relatives that are here, starting with my wife, Hazel, who has put up with me for more than 55 years. Sons Aaron, Mark, Greg, and families that include Erica Solomon, Cassie Solomon, Jordana Solomon, Rachel Solomon, Harry Solomon, Jake Solomon, who's not here, Bennett and Brian Solomons, who also not here. But they are family. I want to thank, I came to the Merrill College in 2003 when, after 28 years, I stopped being sports editor and felt I could help students learn their way. And it was a great move and a great sense of doing something important. And at Merrill College it was. And I want to thank my first assistant, Beth Meekum, Caitlin Wilson, Kate Yankelis, Rose DePaula, and all my sports students, including those who spent 5, 6, 7 years in my class. Don't ask. I could never get them to leave, and they might still be upstairs. Unfortunately, I'm not kidding. I had great deans. Thomas Kunkel, Chris Callahan, Kevin Close, Lucy Douglas, and now Raphael Lorente. They kept the sports department going, unlike some other people who own a newspaper. But the people I mentioned, the deans, saw the value in sports. And that was, a big deal. At Maryland, Lily LaRue, she's here. Britt Kerwin, who is president of the University of Maryland. President Pines, the current president. Kevin Anderson, who used to be the athletic director. Tom McMillan was a great friend. Missy Maharg. Sasho Servosky, the soccer coach. Sasho was the soccer coach, and one year he came to my class to talk, and after class, his team went on a winning streak, and every year he would come, and his team would go on a winning streak. So he owes me. Let me really thank the Povich family. Maury, Lynn, David Povich, the late Connie Povich, Steve Shepard, Connie Chung. I can't tell you what it meant to have them, have the Poviches in our corner. Don Graham, who's here tonight and was a great owner of the Washington Post and a pretty good sports editor. He was a sports editor in 1974, went on to bigger things, and I did not. I succeeded him. But Graham always supported the Povich Center, as did Alan Bubis, who supported the Povich Summer Camp. Now, what was the Povich Summer Camp? We didn't have bunks. We didn't have anything. We had people who would come and talk about sports journalism to high school students, many of whom could not get into the University of Maryland, but went on to other places where they did very well, graduated from their respective universities, and have had great careers in sports journalism. I also want to thank Alan Bubis, Gary Bettman, Paul Tagliabue, Roger Goodell, David Stern, Don Garber. Bob Costas, I do feel bad about, because his appearance at the Povich Symposium cost him $1 million a year job. And I do feel bad about that. but I think he got another job, and he's doing and he's doing fine. Harvey Sanders was a big help, and as was Ted Leontis. Kevin Blackistone was a great professor with us, as was Joe Yasheroff, Mark Gray. They're all here. As of my guests in class, the first guest I ever had in class was Michael Wilbon. The last guest I ever had before retiring was Michael Wilbon. And but we had, over the years, Christine Brennan, Tony Kornheiser. I'm proud to say Ben Bradley's last public appearance was right here at the Merrill College, and we will remember him forever. It was a great great second career here, and I want to thank Natalie Cosner. Vanessa Nicholas Holmes is the budget lady. And as of the budget lady at the Washington Post, in more than 30 years of both at the Post and Merrill College, I never made budget. But don't ask me why Vanessa didn't get me canned. Katie Orney was here, but it was a wonderful experience. I thank Raphael for this great honor. Diana Huffman is here, and a lot of former students are over here on the left side and deserve some kind of applause for putting up with me all these years. But again, I want to thank the Merrill College and the Povich family for supporting the Povich Center, and I thank you all very much. Okay. I got to keep my jacket on.
You should keep it.
Thank you. Where's the cemetery on?
So I don't believe I will offend any of my dean or associate dean predecessors when I say that the idea that any of us kept sports alive here is preposterous. Because if George walked into my office, Rafe, and told me what to do, he'd walk out and I'd do it. So I think we know who kept sports alive here. Let's have another round of applause for all of our outstanding honorees. I want to say thank you to all the family, the friends, and the colleagues who came out to celebrate with them today. You all make Merrill College proud. I urge you all to follow the work of current Merrill College students through Capital News Service, through the local news network, through the Shirley Povich Center for Sports Journalism, through the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism, and through all the student-run publications and outlets, and I won't try to name them because I'll miss one and I'll get yelled at, but they are fantastic, and the students here are doing great work both with us and on their own. I want to say, Tim, this is not the Merrill College you remember. It's not a print school anymore. Yes, we are still teaching students to be ethical and dogged reporters, to speak truth to power, and to tell stories in thoughtful and engaging ways. But these students and their faculty are also leading the way. They're leading the way in investigative journalism, in data journalism, in the use of AI to make journalism better, not cheap and dumb. They are doing fantastic work, and I urge you to follow them. In any one of our classrooms, on any given day, sits the next Monica, the next Tim, the next Lee, the next Joanne, or the next Joe, not the next George. I think that mold was broken. But these students care. They have the passion that Tim talked about. They are a diverse group. Where's Michelle? I'm losing her. There she goes. They come from all over. They do the work. They feel the mission of journalism. They are really a great bunch. Please follow their work. As has been said today a couple times, it's a tough time for journalists everywhere, especially those just starting out. The awardees here tonight have made mentorship and supporting the press a priority. At Merrill, investing in student success is a top priority, and it is a central focus of something you all will hear about over the next couple years, the Forward campaign trying to raise $2.5 billion for the college. We only have a little fraction that we're responsible for, thankfully. But our top priority is to make sure our students have the resources, the opportunities, and the support they need to thrive. There are tons of folks in this room and outside who have given of their time, their talent, and their treasure, and I thank you all for that. If you're interested in learning more about the great work happening here, I encourage you to get involved with the Journalism Alumni Network or just join us at another event. If you'd like to support our outstanding students, please reach out. Victoria Black is here somewhere. There she goes. She'll take your call anytime. She is our Chief Development Officer, by the way, and had much to do with this event, so thank you. I also want to thank a couple of other folks, Natalie Cosner, Josh Land, Vanessa. I don't do well with budgets either, so I did learn something from George. Anyone who I missed, the students in the back doing the work, and the folks in the control room behind me, thank you for making this possible. This concludes our formal program for the evening. I'd like to ask the honorees to join me outside the theater for a quick photograph, and everyone else, please go outside and enjoy the reception. Thank you for coming.